guys? It's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 99, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek. Fight Geek, what a weekend. How you doing, man?
Unbelievable, man. Still catching my breath from the weekend. Mind-blowing weekend in MMA. Happy to be here talking about it and breaking it down with you.
Absolutely. Folks, we missed you. I'm sorry that we missed last week. Both me and Fight Geek were indisposed. We tried to make the episode work anyways. We're definitely looking forward to being very close to weekly going forward. Here's what we've got today. First, I've got a quick opening question for Fight Geek. Then it's on to the UFC 261 recap and review. What a card that was. After that, UFC Vegas 25, Reyes versus Prochaska preview and picks. Then we're going to move on to some quick news and headlines because this was a huge week in MMA news. And then it's on to my favorite section, listener questions and more. But Fight Geek, that was a lot that was a mouthful, but here's my opening question for you. Okay, Dana White said after Kamaru Usman's jaw-dropping victory against Jorge Masvidal in the main event of UFC 261 this weekend, Dana White said that Kamaru Usman is quickly on track to becoming the greatest fighter of all time. I want to ask you right now, is that accurate or is that hyperbole by Dana White? And where do you ultimately, when all the dust settles and Kamaru Usman's career is over, where do you see him on the GOAT list?
Well, I mean, viewing it in a vacuum, in his 20th fight of his career, being 19-1, I think he's been, 6 years or something since he's lost. Yes, I think it's definitely an accurate statement. Now, it's not a conclusive statement, but where we are today, it's definitely fair to discuss Kamaru Usman among the greatest fighters to this point in their careers, relative to anyone who's ever done it. I mean, the only guy who has a longer win streak to start his career is Anderson Silva, and he's trailed by guys like Khabib. So, yeah, his name is quickly ascending toward the all-time greats.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me ask you this. Right now, look, I'm a big Tyron Woodley fan. I think I'm one of the few ones out there, but I will be the first to say, Fight Geek, I agree that Usman's 4 title defenses are more impressive than Tyron Woodley's 4. That's just a fact, right? So he's at the very worst, the 3rd greatest welterweight of all time right now. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say he's better than Matt Hughes. I'm ready. I know that that's controversial.
I know, but there's 2 ways to look at this question, though, because if you're judging them as who's the 3rd greatest welterweight of all time, Matt Hughes' resume, what's on paper, still far outweighs Kamaru Usman.
Absolutely, but strength of schedule.
Which one man in his absolute prime would beat all the other prime fighters in a tournament? I think you can make a case that a prime Kamaru Usman beats a prime Matt Hughes, but there's no way you can put Kamaru Usman's resume versus Matt Hughes' resume, who I believe off the top of my head is like 45-8 and was a multiple-time champion with wins over guys like George St. Pierre, who is still above Kamaru Usman in the GOAT conversation. Let's not forget, Matt Hughes submitted him. So, yes, he has a ways to go to put it down on paper. Now, if you're saying which man's apex is the best, I would say that
he's 45-9.
Usman, because of the evolution of the game and where we are, is probably the better fighter.
That's what I'm saying.
A ways to go on the resume.
Okay, I agree with you. I agree that he's got a ways to go on the resume. I can't even debate that. What I'm saying is I do think that obviously MMA is quickly evolving, right? So
100%.
People are getting better and better. Colby Covington 5 or 6 years ago would have been champ for sure with his level, right? But it's harder now, right? Because of what's going on.
Yeah, but it's so hard to say that because that's not a real question or a real thing because his training methods and his coaches weren't in that time frame. So to put a modernly trained fighter 5 years ago doesn't make any sense. It wasn't possible for them to be that modern. We hadn't gotten there in evolution yet. So,
that's fair.
Yeah, so it's a tough one. You have to go off of the facts of what they did throughout the entirety of their career, and there's also that mythical kind of one-night breakdown, which I go off a lot of.
So you say Usman is still number 3 greatest welterweight all time, correct?
Well, I believe that Robbie Lawler still has a slightly better resume. But
what?
Again,
Everyone,
Yes,
you heard
Robbie
it
Lawler
here.
was
Fight
one of
Geek
the-
is tripping. He says
No,
Robbie Lawler's a
is
better
one of the greatest-
welterweight than Usman.
Robbie
What?
Lawler is one of the greatest action champions in the history of combat sports.
Woodley's a better welterweight of all time than Lawler. He defended his belt 4 times.
Yeah, but one of his defenses is against Darren Till, which is a
Well, so
very
what?
shady title defense in my
Whoa,
opinion.
Till is still viewed as super elite, and he was absolutely
He
was
may
undefeated.
be viewed by what but the proof, the resume,
Wait, this just got interesting. You think Lawler is better than Usman?
I don't. I think on paper for sure. I think
That's
Usman,
nuts, bro. You're tripping.
No, he's got all-time great fights versus Rory McDonald, versus Carlos Condit, versus Matt Brown. I know those aren't necessarily, all-time Mount Rushmore fighters. I mean, Carlos Condit, if you go back and look over his resume at the time, was about as elite as they come. Rory McDonald at the time that he dispatched him in arguably the goriest, most blood and guts fight in the history of the sport was literally the epitome of a protege, reaching his potential. So, I mean, Robbie Lawler had some unbelievable moments. Now, am I
just
saying
gotta push back strongly here. Hang on 1 second. You say Robbie Lawler's more accomplished than Kamaru Usman right now. That's fair. But let's break this down. He won the belt at UFC 181 against Johnny Hendricks in a split decision. Many believe Hendricks won. Many.
I don't believe Hendricks won that. And Robbie Lawler, that was like a fight of the year contender. So right there, unbelievable action fight.
Let's move on. UFC 189, one of my favorite fights of all time. Defended the belt against Rory McDonald. Was almost stopped multiple times. Don't get me wrong. It was an amazing. It's one of the best fights, if not the greatest fight of all time.
Usman, even though this past weekend was unbelievable, has never even come close to that kind of lore or theater.
The Colby Covington fight at 245 came close.
Well, no, because Colby Covington, as much as I hate to admit it, was not on the level that Rory McDonald was on at that point, in my opinion.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so hang on. Moving on to the final. So Robbie had only 2 title defenses. You're saying he's better on paper than Kamaru, who has 4. Carlos Condit, he won a split decision at UFC 195. Many say Carlos Condit won that fight, Fight Geek.
Well, I don't say that, and history doesn't say that. So Carlos Condit was an interim champion who he beat. So that is the equivalent, if nothing else, to the Colby Covington victory.
Yeah, that's fair. Tell me why 2 split decisions and 2 title defenses, 3 total title wins, is more impressive than Kamaru Usman's 4. With 3, by the way, 3 of 4 of those coming by way of stoppage via strikes.
I guess it would just be because of the way I weigh the victories over Condit and McDonald historically. I don't weigh that Gilbert Burns fight, a guy that, Dan Hooker stopped, as a historically great win, albeit relevant in the moment here.
I will not let you attack my friend Gilbert Burns' name on this show. Gilbert Burns is a close friend of the show, close friend of mine.
These resumes.
Okay. All right, I'm just kidding around.
But it's a great topic, and Kamaru Usman, in my opinion, today is the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. So just to end any speculation that I don't think Kamaru Usman is unbelievable and on his way to being an all-time great, that's squashed, because I think he's unbelievable.
Okay, very fair. Let's get into the meat of UFC 261, and let's start with a quick recap of Usman Masvidal. I know we've already talked about Usman at length. He won via KO right cross at 1 minute and 2 seconds of round number 2.
Explosion. That was unbelievable.
It was one of the listen, Fikey. To me, it was one of the most brutal right hand punches or one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen.
I felt the impact through my television screen. I'm not lying.
I was considerably scared for Masvidal's life. He looked like he was dead.
He buckled his neck in the worst kind of way. I mean, that was impact. That was power. That was brutal violence.
And do you know how many fighters have done that to Jorge Masvidal in the UFC, knocked him out like that? 0.
You talk about a perfect punch, and I love that Jorge owned it. I love that Jorge owned the fact that he was confused confused and out, thought in that moment, because I think the one thing with Kamaru Usman that is forgotten a lot, because he looks like a Greek god chiseled out of stone and he's an unbelievable wrestler, is that the guy's a very intelligent fighter. He keeps his composure, and he's shown us multiple times now that on the fly he can figure it out, make an adjustment, and that was unbelievable that he was able to, just with the threat of the wrestling and even though he hadn't really, implemented the fact that Jorge had trained for it so long, it was in the back of his mind. He was still thinking that way, and he was able to, land that right hand that cleanly. I mean, legendary moment, big cherry on the top of an unbelievable night. I was literally exhausted after watching those fights.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really quickly, last question, then we're going to move on to that co-main. What kind of chances? I know it's a little early for us to give full breakdowns, full predictions. Dana said that Usman versus Covington 2 is next. I want you to tell me how you see that going and how you like Colby's chances.
Yeah, I think Colby's gonna come do what Colby does, but I think we've seen an evolution of Usman. I think it'll play out similar to the way it was before, which will be back and forth. But I think
you do think it'll be that competitive. So you think it'll be another classic?
I think it'll be competitive, but not as long. I think Usman will stop him earlier, maybe in the fourth, late third.
Damn, you stole my thunder. I was hoping you were gonna say that it was gonna be really. I'm saying. Look, Colby, in my opinion, he's either the second or the third best. It's between him and Burns. I'm not sure yet. Those two need to fight. But Colby
I think Wonderboy could beat Burns potentially.
Well, we're about to find out. Don't worry. They're scheduled to fight. But
I know,
anyway,
so we're going to see.
Yeah, we're going to see. But anyways, Colby is an amazing fighter. This is what I have to say. Colby had a huge Colby had a chance to beat Usman. Don't get it complicated. At 245, he could have won that fight. Maybe even should have. I'll go as far and say that.
No, it was razor close.
But Usman has widened the gap too much. Colby's chance at beating Kamaru, that's gone. That's gone now.
Kamaru's also stayed much more active than him, so he's going to be sharper.
I've got Kamaru against Colby. I've got Kamaru taking him out inside 3 rounds. I feel fairly confident saying Colby's not getting out of the third. Not against this new Kamaru Usman.
Interesting. Okay, so I've got another question for you then. What's next for Jorge Masvidal coming off of a brutal loss, one in which he owned, and you got to show him respect for that because he didn't run and hide. He gave an interview after, and he was Monday morning, being open and honest, which I love to hear. So what do you think's next for him? He's clearly in that celebrity fighter stage of his career, right?
Well, it's fascinating you say that because for those that don't know, UFC 251, Usman Masvidal, the first fight on Fight Island, that did, I believe, 1.3 million pay-per-views, and it felt like even when Masvidal lost, it felt like he was on the edge of superstardom. If not, he had already done it. Let's be honest.
Yes, but you have to understand that was a lot closer to his excitement in 2019. We're far removed from that now.
He hasn't. I'm just saying.
I know what you're getting
those
at.
numbers were from Masvidal.
He's not a draw, but I would counterpoint you that 700,000 is actually very respectable.
It's respectable, but those numbers are for Kamaru Usman, who's building his brand, is what I'm saying.
I don't think those numbers were. I think those were Jorge Masvidal numbers. I think the next numbers will be Kamaru Usman. I believe Kamaru Usman announced himself to the world last Saturday.
People are going to tune in now. He's no longer boring. Now he's a knockout artist.
No, but what I'm saying is nobody. I mean, there wasn't one person I know that was like tuning in for Kamaru Usman.
They're going to start. They're going to start.
Well, they will now for sure. But I'm saying whatever 700,000. That bought that, I believe that was for the women fight and mostly for Jorge. Moving forward, I do believe Usman will be, I don't know if he's going to be the biggest draw in the world, but he should be must-see TV. That guy is elite, and he's in his prime.
Yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question about what's next for Masvidal, I think that there's 2 possibilities. One, and I do not want this to happen at all, is that I think they might make Masvidal Diaz 2 for the BMF belt. Guys, don't be mad at me. I think it's disgusting. I hope I'm wrong, but I can see
No, the BMF belt's dead now.
I hope it is.
Nate loses to Leon.
So a lot of people are saying that he needs to fight. Oh my gosh, the guy that's from Gilbert's gym who just knocked out Woodley. What the heck? Oh, Vicente Luque, of course.
I mean, that's a hell of a fight. You know, not to
What
get
about
too
what about
off
Nick
topic
Diaz?
here, but I think Vicente Luque should fight Nick Diaz. I think that's the
No,
fight.
no, no.
We'll talk about that later.
What about Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal? Perfect storyline. You beat up my little brother.
I mean, it's there.
You beat up my little brother.
It's
Like,
100%
let's go.
there, but I think Nick's looking to fight a little sooner than Jorge's going to be able to.
Well, we can discuss it later, but the UFC formally offered Hamzat Chimaev.
Yes, we'll get to all that.
We'll get to all that. All right, let's move on
here because Rose versus Weili Zhang was unbelievable as well. What do you think of this?
I mean, what to say? Let's just start off with Rose. What to say about Rose Namajunas? I mean,
Rose, it might be the most technical striker in the UFC.
I mean, you're not wrong. Look, she's 10-4.
I know, but I think that's
but listen,
because
let
of
me
how
finish.
young she was
when
she began her career.
I was just gonna say, has there ever been a more impressive 10-4 record in the entire in the history of mixed martial arts? I mean, no. The answer is no, of course.
I mean, other than Amanda Nunes, I don't think there's a female alive that has a highlight reel with knockouts over champions like, Joanna and Weili. So
she didn't just beat Weili. She smoked her ass.
Yeah, that was it wasn't like she smoked her. She put together a perfect shot that only a few fighters in the world could do, but Rose Namajunas has showed multiple times now that she can find a perfect shot on an elite champion, which is unbelievable.
Rose is so special. I mean, look, I know
her shot selection is unbelievable, and I'm going to use that word a lot tonight because this card was I couldn't wrap my head around most of what I was seeing all night.
I know this sounds a little. Look, I know that Rose said some very controversial comments in the lead up to fight week that I personally did not like at all. Frankly, I found them very off-putting, if I'm just being honest. But look, here's the thing here's the thing about Rose though. It almost feels like she's the chosen one, from some corny movie. Like I just saw Mortal Kombat.
She's definitely got like a Jedi quality.
Right, and I guess one of the reasons I feel that way, Fight Geek, is it almost feels a lot of the time like she doesn't even necessarily want this. Like, it chose her.
Well,
you know what I mean? She's got that sense of just wearing her heart on her sleeve. I'm not even sure she wants to be there, but she's just so damn good she has to be.
Pretty much, yeah.
Does that make sense?
She's a unique character, man. All I know is that she's incredibly talented and gifted,
She's so special. I mean, I think she is, what I'm saying is she's got to be brought up with Amanda and Valentina. She's in that conversation of GOAT women. She's right there.
Yeah, but she's not quite right there.
She's not quite, but
we'll get to Valentina in a second.
We'll get there. But really quick, what's next for Rose? What's next for Weili Zhang? I want your thoughts. What's the next title fight you make if it's up to you again for Rose? What do you do?
I like to think outside the box sometimes on these. Why not give her someone like Mackenzie Dern and see if you can build a star or get a title defense before you run it immediately back with Zhang? Because the thing I'm worried about is what if Rose starches her again and beats her just like she did Joanna, ends up 2-0, and then you have these two cogs of the division that have no business fighting Rose as the champion. That's a big problem. I think they need to draw that second fight out so that Rose isn't just like peering down with no real fights left.
I'm going to go ahead and say something controversial. I agree with you, Fight Geek. I know that's controversial, but I agree. I don't think
probably doesn't deserve it, but Mackenzie Dern at this point is intriguing enough. She looks like she's in incredible shape. She has the grappling to sell as an opponent, and it's probably a fight that Rose knocks her out and gets a good title defense, which is the kind of thing Rose needs at this point to build her career, being a 10-4 fighter that has very strange kind of career arc.
It doesn't matter that she's 10-4. I never intended that as a diss. It doesn't matter.
For her to be mentioned with someone like a Valentina or a Nunes, she's going to need 2 title defenses or something like that in an extended period of time as a sitting champion. She can't go out there and lose her belt on a fluky thing again. Even if she comes back and becomes a 3-time champion someday, the lack of defenses and consistency will hurt her versus someone Nunes and Valentina, who literally have been amazing forever.
That's fair. So really quick, I did want to say I do agree with you that Zhang should not get an immediate rematch. I think you make Zhang versus JJ is a 5-round fight, whether that headline co-headlines a fight night or co-headlines a pay-per-view, as they've now shown to
100%.
do.
That is a headliner. If that's a rematch, it's a headliner. It's 5 rounds, and it's for the next spot for the title.
Absolutely. And then
don't play with that matchup. That's a special fight.
And then I think, but I don't agree with the Mackenzie Dern pick. I think it's Rose versus the winner of, and I hope I'm not screwing this up, Zhan Ling, and Carla Esparza. Now, if Carla Esparza wins, you've got a fascinating rematch, right?
Well, yeah. If Carla, actually, you know what? The Mackenzie Dern pick popped in my head, and I actually forgot about Carla Esparza, her winning streak, and the chance to win here. How
interesting would that rematch
I mean, Carla Esparza making her way back to the title against Rose, who she beat for the initial title, is a great story. You could actually throw that on the Ultimate Fighter finale with the back ties to the Ultimate Fighter.
I mean, they should have been the coaches, but it's too late now. They screwed that up.
Yeah, that's true. They missed an opportunity there. But, yes, that's a great one as well. So, Rose has interesting fights everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, well, strawweight's, let's just be honest, strawweight's always popping.
It's a great division.
It's a great division. Okay, moving on. Valentina Shevchenko defeated Jessica Andrade 3 minutes and 19 seconds into round number 2.
Made it look like, it was just practice for her. She was just drilling, doing, working everything she wanted to work, getting it where she wanted to get it. I mean, didn't even seem like Valentina busted a sweat. That was impressive.
So this was touched on a little bit in the post-fight press conference, but I want your thoughts. I saw this fight. I thought that Valentina fought pissed. She fought mad.
Yeah, that's the narrative.
She fought she had something to prove. Like, how dare you think Jessica Andrade has anything for me?
Especially considering she was coming up from the weight class down. Valentina's very traditional.
Valentina said, "Oh, you think she's gonna out wrestle me? I'm gonna wrestle her until she breaks. I'm gonna out wrestle her until I break her."
I mean, obviously, people in the know that, Nunes and Valentina are unbelievable strikers, but they're both amazing on the ground, too. They're both great grapplers.
Valentina beat the shit out of Andrade like she owed her money.
Yeah, she did. Everywhere she wanted it. She had her pinned to the mat, just elbowing her in the
I think it was 7 takedowns in the first round. 7? Was it 6 or 7?
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that it was incredibly dominant. So here's the question. Everybody obviously is clamoring for Nunes versus Valentina, which I'm personally not. I want to see Valentina fight Lauren Murphy, get another title defense, and build that legacy out. That Nunes fight is going to be there forever. I wouldn't mind if that is the last fight of both of their careers.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got a good point in that. I think that, look, let's just be honest here. Nunes is not losing to anyone but Val, and Val is not losing to anyone but Amanda anytime soon. So, like you said, the fight ain't going anywhere. And I feel confident saying that. We can put Lauren Murphy in there. I feel bad for Lauren. I think she'll be badly hurt.
I think Lauren Murphy's tough and will at least be in there longer
than you know who else is
some
tough?
Of these girls.
Andrade is pretty tough. Didn't
Yes,
help.
But she's small with short arms and she's limited in her offense. At least Lauren Murphy's a big, sturdy fighter who, is going to be in there for a few minutes.
Can we get rid of the narrative at least that Valentina Shevchenko is a very boring defensive fighter who?
No, she's a technician. She does everything perfect.
But people say she's boring, and I think she came out mad, and she went to prove a point.
Well, I don't know. There's a certain segment of people that think everything other than a knockout's boring, so whatever.
I mean, she elbowed from the crucifix and got the second round.
Yeah, she crucifixed Jessica Andrade and basically elbowed her temple into submission. So, I mean that's pretty exciting to me. Everybody in my household was like, damn, that girl's crazy scary.
Yeah, I thought she fought like a bat out of hell. I think it was her best performance to date. Is that fair?
I mean, she has a highlight reel head kick knockout. But
Jessica Ai isn't the caliber of Andrade.
Maybe that's her best one. But if you remember, she did beat Holly Holm in a pretty good fight at 135, right?
Yeah, I just saw a lot of people saying, "Hey, don't sleep on Andrade," and Shevchenko she made Andrade look like an amateur.
Never sleep on a fighter like Andrade, but you can't sleep on someone like Valentina Shevchenko. You have to acknowledge her clear advantages.
So you say you want Lauren Murphy. We're about to move on. You say you want Lauren Murphy next for Valentina. What do you honestly think Lauren Murphy's going to be able to do? Like, I'm just being honest here, Fight Geek. What is Lauren Murphy going to do? She's not going to do anything.
She's going to stand strong in the pocket. And
she's going to get her ass whooped. No?
Well, of course. But she's going to be in the pocket. She's going to take some shots to give some shots, and maybe we'll see some exchanges on the feet. And I'm sure she gets, TKO'd within 3 rounds. But I think that's still going to be more exciting than, some of the other stuff we've seen. Plus, Lauren Murphy deserves a chance to fight for the title. Some people deserve for a chance based on, what they've been doing. And in a division like that, she's the kind of fighter that should get a title shot. Or else what's the point of all the girls that are down there grinding so hard?
Do you see anyone beating Shevchenko at 125 anytime soon?
I mean, not at this point, but, the landscape of MMA changes rapidly. That's why we love this game. So, as early as next year, there could be a new face on the map. Maybe someone like, Miranda Maverick or one of these younger girls.
Well, Miranda Maverick's good, but again, these girls have nothing for Shevchenko.
But she's so young. There's going to be time on some of these people's side. Val's not going to fight forever. She's in her 30s. But, yes, I don't see anybody in the next 18 months challenging her. No.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Uriah Hall TKOs Chris Weidman via devastating broken leg.
One strike thrown in the whole fight. The strangest thing ever. I mean,
just like the Anderson Silva break.
You want to talk about some, Matrix, karma, who knows what to call it. What are the odds that, Chris breaks Anderson's leg and then almost identically? I mean,
by the way, for anyone wondering how many times this has happened in UFC history, it's only happened 3 times. 2 of them, one person did it to the other, and then that person broke their own
I'm
leg.
no expert, but Chris threw that initial kick as hard as possible, and it was aimed below the knee. I think we've seen, and we'll get to the Anthony Smith fight in a second.
We'll get there, yep.
If you just aim that 4 inches higher, just above the knee, on the back of that meaty spot of the back of the knee, you can just destroy someone's leg. So I don't know, obviously I've never been in a fight or thrown leg kicks like that, but I know that a lot of these fighters are talking about aiming leg kicks.
You're a boxer. Okay, yeah, not like...
I'm just saying people are really going to have to be aware of where they're aiming their kicks moving forward, because these guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster. They're throwing their techniques harder, more confidently. And I'm sure Chris Weidman, who had been training with a striker in Wonder Boy, had been working on his kicks and being, very powerful with them and stuff.
So, okay.
It was heartbreaking, man. I don't know. I'm trying to break down what I saw.
It was heartbreaking. So I don't know if you saw Conor McGregor was tweeting a whole bunch of stuff that night. More on that later. But one thing he did say was after the Weidman break, he said, he's basically speculated that Weidman must have had some kind of fracture.
I know. Let's not give Dr. McGregor any shine.
No. He
doesn't know what he's talking about any more than I do.
Hold on, Fight Geek. It's very much worth noting that this injury is a freak injury. It's happened 3 times in UFC friggin' history.
It's 100% a freak injury. It had nothing to do with prior damage.
Do you think that there was did he have a bunch of mini fractures, is what I'm asking?
I don't think you would have mini fractures.
Because I don't know how that, as someone
whatever, but
I come from Muay Thai, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happens.
Calcium deposits and calcium buildup on that area.
Okay, all right. We're getting into the weeds. We don't know what we're talking about, but okay.
We don't, but all we know is we wish Chris Weidman a speedy recovery.
Yes,
I don't think anything about that fight was conclusive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone felt sick about it.
Absolutely.
I know the only thing we can really talk about is, people were giving Chris shit because they perceived him as celebrating when he hurt Anderson. I think Chris Weidman's one of the best guys that have ever done it in MMA. I've heard 100 interviews with him.
He clarified that today. He said he clarified that in
No, he did, but the fact that people who watch this sport and people who know anything about this sport don't know that Chris Weidman's one of the best dudes that have ever done it, it's a little disheartening. It's like, educate yourself on who these people are. Chris Weidman's a great guy.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on. Anthony Lionheart Smith defeats Jimmy Crute via TKO via doctor's stoppage leg injury at the end of the first round. I picked Jimmy Crute to win, so I'll have egg on my face for that one. But people just keep underestimating Lionheart, and, I'm a big Lionheart fan, so I never understood it. But again, I didn't pick him to win this. I admit that. And it's just, I feel like we look at his record and want to underestimate him, and time again, he proves us wrong.
Yeah, he's an enigma of sorts because he does have some very very strong abilities and skills in traits, but he also has some things that are exploitable. I thought that Jimmy Crute would be able to exploit him, but you know before the leg was damaged, I mean Anthony Smith was bouncing on his feet and absolutely lighting Jimmy Crute up with his jab. It was beautiful jab all night. He looked amazing, similar to how he looked in the early parts of the Teixeira fight where he was just snapping his punches and he looks real fluid. First round Anthony Smith is a problem.
I've got a theory. I've got a theory about Anthony Smith. Real quick, I want your thoughts. I think that Anthony Smith is a fighter who does not fight as well when he's the favorite. He loves being the underdog.
Well, 100%.
That's where he strives.
He's an underdog in real life, so it's something he clearly gravitates to. I think that's easily seen.
When he came to the post-fight presser, he was respectful, but he showed that he had felt legitimately disrespected. He said, man, I was reading social media, people thought Crute was going to smoke me.
He legitimately has up and down performances. He'll look like a guy who can be a champion one night, and then the next night you'll be like, what?
But the difference is, but Fight Geek, I agree, but I'm saying the difference is when he's favored, I think the pressure gets to him a bit. When he's the underdog, he gets mad and he wakes up for the fight.
Yeah, and to be fair to Anthony Smith, he's been in a lot of fights that could have gone either way, where both guys are exhausted, and
he took a lot of fights that he shouldn't have taken,
the other guy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean he's been in a ton of wars, and those can go either way. It's just kind of the way it falls.
All right, so what's next for Anthony Smith, real quick? What do you think? Where does he go from here?
Let's put him versus the winner of this week's fight, Reyes versus Prochazka.
Ooh, that's quite a nice fight for him. I'm sure he'd be very happy to hear that. Does he deserve such a nice
Well, you know
prize?
how the UFC is. They're always kind of, what have you done for me lately? And Anthony Smith just opened a main card and got a stoppage and a lot of eyes on him.
Yeah, you're right. And Smith is ranked number 6, and Yuri Prochazka is 5, and Reyes is 3. I agree with you. You know what? I agree.
Yeah. So that'll be a fun fight. I think that both of those guys are still a fight away after a win from a title shot. So while Glover and Jan fights, the winner of this fight and Anthony Smith can figure it out, and kind of interesting.
All right, we're already 32 minutes in, and we're not even done with 261 at all. Rude Boy Randy Brown with the one-arm rear naked choke, 2.5 minutes exactly into round number 1 against Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Obviously, Cowboy Oliveira and his 30 or 40 children. I don't know. He's got an army of children. I know that.
I love his fights, though. They're always wacky.
He's very exciting. He's very exciting.
Yeah, this was a classic Cowboy Oliveira fight.
But Randy Brown is good, man.
Oh, yeah, Randy Brown has a lot of physical ability. I think that's clear. And, for him to lock in the one arm shows you how tough, or actually how strong he is. So, yeah, impressive win, no doubt.
I got a fight in mind. I want your thoughts. Is Robbie Lawler booked? Number 14?
I don't think he is, but Robbie Lawler, I mean, that's
14 Robbie Lawler versus Randy Brown.
You're trying to use Robbie as just a stepping stone, like he's not Robbie Lawler. What are you doing?
No. Okay, or number 11, Li Jinglang versus...
Perfect.
Okay, I mean, by the way, that's...
The Leech versus Randy Brown.
The Leech is ranked 11. He's ahead of Robbie by 3 spots.
I understand, but Robbie Lawler sits up on the mountain. You don't just make him fight prospects.
Okay, well, how about the Leech versus Randy Brown? The Leech.
Huh?
Li Jinglang, the Leech.
100%. I love that fight.
Yeah, okay, cool. I just think Randy Brown, he's been getting slept on for too long, guys. It's time to take this guy serious. Next fight. Really quick... Dwight Grant beat Stefan Sekulic via split decision in what I thought was, this is not a bash on Dwight Grant, not his fault. I thought it was the worst decision I think I've ever seen.
Really? It was a sloppy fight.
The only other one that comes to mind, but I'll tell you what comes to mind is probably worse, is Brunson losing to Anderson Silva. I remember that one.
You think it's the worst decision you've ever seen?
Well, I think of Brunson Silva. Brunson lost to Silva when he clearly won. That was really bad. But this was pretty close to that bad.
I'll take your word for it. I
disagree?
I picked Grant to win. I saw him get his hand raised.
Oh, so did I. I'm just being honest here.
It was sloppy. That's all I know.
Yeah,
That's probably the worst fight of the night for me.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Brendan Allen versus Carl Roberson.
Good performance by Brendan Allen, one of my favorite prospects. He's kind of rounding out of that prospect status now, but He looked good.
Heel hook submission. He's a little hittable, I'd say.
He is hittable, but he actually backed up Robertson and got his respect on the feet before it went to the ground. So I like that I saw that.
Absolutely. Pat Sabatini beat Tristan Connolly in a unanimous decision that won Fight of the Night. Oh, wait, no, excuse me. I'm so sorry. That did not win Fight of the Night. I was trying to talk about another fight. But what did you think of Sabatini, Tristan Connolly? Not much?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tristan Connolly underperformed a bit. Good win for Pat. Not many thoughts on that fight considering the card.
Agreed. Dana Batkaral with a KO counter left hook at 50 seconds of round 1 against Kevin Natividad. I thought Batkaral looked really good at bantamweight, and I think he's a true presence there.
Yeah, I mean, he showed a lot of power for a bantamweight, so that was nice.
Yep, Rodrigo Vargas defeated Zhu Rong by unanimous decision. I didn't have many thoughts on this fight. I thought it was one of the worst.
It was just kind of some filler.
Okay, now let me get to the fight I thought I was talking about before. Jeff Molina defeats Chileng Aori via unanimous decision in the Fight of the Night. I had Molina winning it. You had Aori, so I wanted to dunk on that quick.
You just wanted to dunk. Yeah, well, my guy kept putting his chin on a platter for some reason.
How good was that fight? It had DC standing up chanting, "Jeff Molina's the man! Jeff Molina's the man!" I mean, it was incredible.
I think after that fight, I tweeted that it was going to be a special night because it was clear that there was something in the air at that point.
I mean, I think Jeff, I kind of said after it, and maybe I got a little excited, but look, flyweight needs flashy new fighters, and Jeff Molina is one of them. And he's gritty, and he's tough, because Lord knows he lost that first round. He came back. So I'm a big Jeff Molina fan, and I would really like to see him get a ranked opponent at flyweight.
Why not a Tim Elliott?
Might be a little tough for him. I kind of want an easier fight, to be totally honest.
Okay. I don't know. Tim Elliott's got like 14 losses.
Yeah, it's true. He's a dangerous submission. Yeah, actually, I'm cool. I'm cool with Tim Elliott. As long as it gets Jeff Molina a win, because I want this guy winning going forward. So, okay, moving on to the last fight, the first fight of the night. Na Liang lost to Ariana Conalesi by TKO ground and pound from guard at 1 minute and 28 seconds of round number 2. What a back and forth, fun start to the card.
Yeah, it was so fun. Carnelossi got jabbed on her backside 2 seconds into the fight.
People were after that fight, before they knew what was in store, they were saying, "Oh, is this fight of the night?" Because it was that exciting.
It was a very good fight. Yeah, like I said, I tweeted early that it had a special vibe. I mean, the crowd, even the few people that were there early were going wild. I mean, the Molina fight, just to circle back, the crowd, the ebbs and flows were going crazy, and that was the second fight of the night. I'd love to hear that.
Absolutely. So, guys, if you're new to this show, we normally don't break down every single fight on a card, but I think you all agree UFC 261 was special. It was one of the most exciting cards from top to bottom. It was the third shortest card in terms of overall fight time in UFC history, Fight Geek, which is crazy. And I thought it was important that we covered it all. Are we ready?
100%. Real quick, though,
Yeah.
In a vacuum, where does UFC 261 rank all time for you?
Geez. I mean, it's up there. I'm trying to think of more exciting. It's so hard to answer. It's on the spot. I know that UFC 189 always jumps out to me as a special card only because of the main. I thought the main and the co-main were both so good with McGregor Mendez and then Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler too. But
the depth of this main card, other than Chris Weidman breaking his leg, I think it was the most action-packed main card we've ever seen.
I think that's. Even
that breaking of the leg is an action moment.
Absolutely. I was going to say, I think
every
that's true.
single of the 5 fights on the main card had an "oh my god" moment, and that's all you're really looking for. So it's crazy.
Absolutely. Okay, so are we ready to move on to our preview and picks for UFC Vegas 25?
Yeah,
Reyes
this card is actually great.
Prochazka.
I like this card in its own right, but seems like it's a step back from last weekend. Oddly enough.
I mean, as anything would feel, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so we're just gonna preview the main card. Let's start from the bottom and go up. Poliana Botelho to start off the main card fights Luana Carolina. Poliana's 8-3, Brazil, versus Luana Carolina 6-2 from Brazil. Who you got?
I'm going to take Poliana Botelho. I've kind of gone against her a couple times, and she's had a couple nice performances, so she's won me over. She beat Lauren Miller, who I was a fan of. You know, she had a tough loss to Jillian Robertson, but Jillian Robertson's a tough out. So yeah, I'm going with Botelho.
All right, well, that's annoying because I'm also going with Botelho. So that's boring. Moving on. Now this fight's great. Merab Dvalishvili versus Cody Stamann. Let me go first here. I'll take this one since you took the last one. I'm seeing a lot of people picking Cody, and Lord knows I have nothing but respect for Cody, and I get that. I get that. But I just think Merab Dvalishvili is. I truly think Merab's special. I really do, and I've got him grinding out a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, I see it the other way. I'm going to go with Cody Stamann.
Ooh.
I've been impressed by him. You know, he has some good wins: the Perez win, the Kelleher win, Caraway win. He's lost to guys like Jimmy Rivera and Aljamain Sterling, who's the current sitting champion. Merab is a guy who, I still am high on, but, I think he can be exploited in some areas, and I think that Stamann is good enough to do that. So I'm gonna take him in this one via decision. But I think it'll be a back and forth fight. I think it's gonna be grueling.
That's gonna be a great fight.
Yeah, right? It's definitely gonna be high paced. I think it'll obviously be Merab marching forward, but I think Stamann's the kind of guy who has the strength and ability to kind of stay at distance and kind of exploit some of Merab's looping shots.
Okay, very fair. All right, moving on. Sean Strickland versus Krzysztof Jotko. Who you got?
Yep. Sean Strickland. Just think he's a little sharper everywhere, especially on the feet.
I also have Sean Strickland.
You got to stop letting me go first because I think.
All right, go ahead.
These are a couple clear reads in my opinion, but who knows? Jotko was high early and has had a couple sluggish performances that worry me. I think Strickland, when he's at his best, is just a little sharper.
All right. Got to agree with that. Moving on.
Here, I'll call it out. Cutelaba versus Jacoby, Phil. Who you got?
Yeah, now this is not a particularly easy fight to call. This is a tough one. But I do think that Ian Cutelaba is going to win this. Now, I think he needs it. I think he's going to pull it off.
Yeah, it's boring to agree, but I certainly am going to have to pick Cutelaba here. I think he's just better all around at this point.
He needs it. He's going to need this
one. Yeah, he needs it. He's an emotional fighter. I think he gets a little worked up sometimes. It takes him out of his game plan or his game. But he is a very talented guy who is very strong. I've always been a big fan, so hopefully he can put it together here. I see him winning here. I could see him, winning via TKO, let's say second round.
I got Ian Cutelaba winning via TKO third round.
Nice. That's another fight that could be fun right there. It could get sloppy and wild for sure.
Absolutely. Moving on, Cub Swanson versus Giga Chikadze in the co-main event. Who you got?
This is going to be a beautiful striking match. I love both guys striking. I'm a big fan of Cub Swanson. I think he's super underrated with the versatility he shows in his fights as far as the striking. He throws all kinds of stuff. I'm going to take the grizzled vet here, Cub Swanson, via decision. I think
Wow,
he has the more seasoned MMA experience, and I think he's just going to be able to do enough to edge the more raw MMA fighter.
Okay.
Chikadze.
Wow. Disagree. Hard disagree here.
Hard disagree.
I got Chikadze winning this one via unanimous decision. 30-27. 30-27.
Name one guy he's beaten that's even close to someone like Cub Swanson on the feet.
No, I can't. I can't.
Yeah, this is an enormous jump for him.
Well, there's a first time for everything, ain't there?
He's going from some guy named Jamie Simmons to Cub Swanson.
There's a first time for everything.
Erwin Rivera to Cub Swanson. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting
You're right. It's a big step up. Absolutely.
It's a huge step up. I think people are picking Giga because, he's kind of a new hot prospect, which 100% he is. But this is a huge jump.
Are most people picking him? I haven't looked at the odds, but are they?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the odds either. I just kind of check the timeline and take the general pulse. That's what I've seen.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Anyways, moving on to the main event. Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochazka? Prochazka.
You probably do it way better than me, man.
I have no idea. Dominic Reyes versus Yuri Prochazka.
Can we just call him Yuri? I mean, he's a one-namer.
Until we figure it out. But
there's no other Yuris in the UFC.
Exactly. So. I'm going to go ahead and, if it's okay, make the pick here, the first pick. Look, I saw Yuri fight Volkan Ozdemir and stick his chin out and beg to get hit, and Volkan obliged him and hit him as hard as he could many times. And Yuri smiled like a psychopath and then knocked him out. I feel bad for Dominic. I think Dominic should have been, just for the record, I think Dominic should have been the lightweight champ when he rightfully defeated John Jones. That was a horrible thief robbery fight. But Reyes is screwed.
Was it worse than the Dwight Grant decision?
Oh, no. Because Jones is very Jones is more of an argument. But I think Reyes is screwed. I feel bad for him. Yuri by third round. Nope. Second round stoppage. Second.
Yeah, I hate to agree here, but I just think Yuri is gonna. He just deals better in chaos, and I think there's going to be some chaotic exchanges between these two, and I think he's going to catch Dom, and I see it similar to you, probably second round Yuri TKO.
Absolutely. Okay, so
right.
We ready to move on to, we've got a little news surprise section, folks, because there's so much to cover this week. News and headlines.
News and headlines.
Quite a creative title. No, honestly, it's like the worst title for a section ever. Guys, please tweet us. Phil? No, please tweet us with a better title for a news and headline section. I get it. It's a horrendous title. I get it. Just tweet us, okay? Well, I don't. Do you have a better idea, Fikey?
So what do you got for news and headlines?
All right, first and foremost, John Jones fires the Kawa brothers in a dramatic plot twist. I want your thoughts on that.
First of all, I love it. Second of all, I think it discredits everything you have been trying to peddle as far as John doesn't want the Ngannou fight. I think this proves that John wants the Ngannou fight and his management was not being able to make it happen. So John grew impatient and is going in another direction in order to make this fight happen. And for a little caveat, I would say if Ali was John's manager, this fight would be booked already, guaranteed.
By the way, I'm fully expecting Jones to go to Ali. I'll be shocked if he's not already his client.
What other choice does he have? I mean, go to Ali is really. I mean, he's the biggest manager at this point, right? All of his fighters get title shots ad nauseum.
So just to really quickly, and I don't want to make this about me. Malki Kawa has taken a few shots at me in the past. He is a clown with full makeup on at the circus. Let me tell you about Malki Kawa's management record in the last year. Got Yoel Romero cut from the UFC. Couldn't make a deal to keep Yoel Romero in the UFC. I mean, think about that. Yoel wasn't even going to get picked up by Bellator until Scott Coker saw all the social media unrest demanding that he get picked up. So now he's picked up for a one-fight deal against Rumble. Great job, management, Kawa. Then Tyron Woodley totally destroys the Woodley deal, ruins everything. Woodley never got anything out of them as champ, and he's certainly not his ex-champ. Got cut. Great job, Kawa brothers, you idiots. Got Mighty Mouse. I'm not quite done. Got Mighty Mouse knocked out. Got Mighty Mouse knocked out like a bunch of idiots. Got Masvidal. Masvidal was literally the next Conor McGregor a year ago. Now he doesn't have 1/10 of the fans. Not a tenth. He's gone from the king to a laughingstock. And John Jones fires them. What can't they fuck up? Nothing.
You said it. All right.
Am I
Let's
wrong?
keep it-
Fight Geek, push back if I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
I mean, like I
Push
said,
back
you
if I'm
said
wrong,
it, man.
bro.
It is what it is. The fact, I think someone kind of broke it down in the comment sections. You had the Michael Jordan, the Tom Brady of your sport for 11 years, and the most you could get him was $500,000 a fight. I think that's an epic fail.
And it sounds like, by the way, and I'm going to bat for Jones here, it sounds like Jones was telling the truth that Malky and Abraham Kawa were so stupid that they went to the UFC and offered and said Jones is only doing it for $30 million without consulting John? That's just jaw-dropping stupidity. And
Well, I mean,
Jones
the
was right to
handling-
fire them.
Long before this year, the handling of John and all of his transgressions, I have always felt that those guys came off as underqualified to handle an athlete of his.
They are clowns.
All right, let's keep it moving. We got so much to cover here.
Okay, next.
What else is in the news section of
DC
this
versus Jake Paul. Listen, guys, before the show started, the truth is I didn't want to cover Jake Paul. I texted Fight Geek. I said, Fight Geek, I don't like talking Jake Paul. It's a little casual.
He begged me
And
to
Fight
talk
Geek,
about
Fight Geek said, we have to talk about it. It's all I care about right now.
Exactly. No, go ahead.
All right. So
DC
UFC
versus Jake
so look,
Paul. What's going on?
Jake Paul was calling out DC for a fight, and that's all. He didn't say boxing match. He didn't say MMA fight. He said a fight for the last 8 days.
And he called him Fat Boy.
Called him Fat Boy. He's screaming his mouth off on social media. So fast forward to UFC 261. Jake Paul shows up. He's sitting right behind the announcer's table. The crowd recognizes him and starts chanting, "Fuck Jake Paul! Fuck Jake Paul!" Literally, they're chanting it all night.
Rightfully so.
And rightfully so. DC, hearing the chant, turns around, locks eyes with Jake, death stares him. After the break between the prelim and the main card, DC says, "Hey, can I have 2 minutes?" The producer says, "Yeah, you've got 2 minutes." Doesn't say where he's going, walks over to Jake and says, essentially, keep my name out of your mouth. Or, I don't play. I'm not Ben Askren. Keep my name out of your mouth. There's going to be consequences. Paul, pretended to be a tough guy as he was, leaning back, and there was this clown security guard who kept kind of touching DC, and I just kept thinking to myself, man, what are you going to do if DC decides to smack Jake? You going to do something, big guy? You going to do something? What are you going to do to Daniel Cormier?
Into it because if DC decides to smack Jake, Jake wins.
Well, that's why DC didn't do it. So,
of course, but I think you overplayed a little bit because I think DC's coming as much from like the wrestling coach.
No, he was mad.
He was clearly annoyed, no doubt. But I think DC has the "I'll teach you a lesson" wrestling coach vibe as much as he has he's not. I don't think that DC is jockeying and posturing with
No, he's not posturing. He's just saying. He's just saying, Jake. He's just saying, Jake, you picked the wrong one. You picked the wrong one.
But then I don't understand it because that fight is 99.9% not going to happen. So what is really the point?
Hold on. So for people that don't know, I'm sure most of you know. So that happened on Saturday. Fast forward to Monday. DC offers a formal challenge to Jake Paul to fight
in an MMA fight.
In an MMA fight, a mixed martial arts competition.
Which would be absolute suicide mission for Jake Paul.
I mean, Jake's been calling him out for a week, so let's not pretend that DC was bullying him.
To go fight an
let's
MMA
not pretend DC was being a bully.
Champion.
He responded to a constant attack on his character, right?
Yeah, but you're actually building this up like this guy's gonna fight an
Of course
MMA
Jake's not gonna fight. Of
champion
course Jake's not taking
MMA.
the fight. I'm just showing that Jake's a coward and a fraud, that's all.
Well, he's definitely a fraud when it comes to challenging an elite or even DC's old, but he's a champion.
He's not just a champion, he's one of the greatest fighters of all time.
Yeah, it's the same reason Floyd Mayweather can go around out of shape, not training, beating up regular people all the time for millions of dollars. It would be the same thing. It's because they're going to his wheelhouse. The reason Jake Paul looks good is because people keep stepping way outside of their wheelhouse to meet him. The first time he steps into anyone else's wheelhouse, all of this is over.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, this was inevitable.
And I don't even think you could get an MMA fight sanctioned versus DC and Jake Paul. I don't think there's a state that would sanction that, honestly. Jake Paul has no formal MMA training.
You can sanction it.
You're going to sanction Jake Paul versus Daniel Cormier?
What do you think Jake Paul walks around at? He walks around
It
at
doesn't
215,
matter what he walks
210,
around
210,
at.
215.
What if DC disfigures him with an elbow in the ground and pound?
DC can do whatever he
And it's
wants.
on your
He could
hand
snap his
that
neck
you
if
have
he
a
wants. He could
disfigured
kill him.
20-year-old because you put him in there with a former heavyweight champion with no experience. That fight is never happening. I just talked myself completely out of it. There's no way that can happen.
Well, Jake already turned it down. No, Jake turned it down today. He turned it down like a little bit.
That's why we've already wasted too much time on it. He's not fighting anyone in MMA.
Right. Anyways, Jake then went on with his interview with Ariel today to say that he will continue to hunt down MMA fighters, drag them into boxing matches, and humiliate them. And his next target, as he said, is Nathan Diaz. And he made it clear he will only box Nate and he will beat Nate. Now, what people are not realizing is that Jake Paul walks around at 210 plus. He's calling out a lightweight/welterweight.
Yeah, but I'm sure Nate walks around at 185.
Okay, that's still a lot less than Jake, is it not?
No, it's still a big difference. And again, I don't see Nate Diaz being the type of guy who is going to sell his soul to be in a freak show fight. That's not who Nate Diaz is. That fight will never happen. Nate Diaz is not Ben Askren coming off of being completely humiliated in the UFC and hip surgery. Nate Diaz is a cultural icon.
I agree.
He's not doing that. And you know what? He's also counterculture enough to say, fuck off. He does not care.
I agree.
He'll smack you if he sees you on the street, but he's not going to book a main event fight versus someone like Jake Paul. It's so beneath him, he would never do that.
All right, so I want to move on from Jake Paul, but my last question before we do, if it's up to you, who does Jake Paul fight next? And by fight, I do mean box, because he's
celebrity box.
He's made it clear he'll only box.
100% it should be Tyron Woodley.
I completely agree with you. I think there's 0% chance that he takes the fight, but that Jake takes that. 0.
Well, I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. I think Tyron Woodley probably could have pushed for his job in the UFC, but they split based on the fact that he already has avenues to go do other stuff like that. So, I mean, Tyron Woodley has never been shy about his desire for paydays. That's basically been the narrative of his career. He has an opportunity if he plays his card right to have the biggest payday of his career coming off an 0-4 MMA basically retirement. I think it's absolutely no-brainer. And Tyron Woodley is still physically viable enough to damage Jake Paul badly. So I think it's very interesting.
I agree. Just really quick, it's worth noting, in my dream world, it would be an MMA card headlined by Daniel Cormier versus Jake Paul, with the co-main event being Tyron Woodley versus Jalen Love, the clown who became Jake Paul's water boy. Yeah, but see, that doesn't
do anything for me.
No, because Jalen Love was talking all kinds of shit.
No, I get it. I know the whole storyline. DC's not fighting Jake Paul. Please stop saying that.
Okay, well,
stop, Phil.
Okay, look, Fight Geek.
Step away from
Fight Geek, I'm letting you know what I want. Can we get Jalen Love seriously injured? That's what I'm talking about.
I'm sure we can find somebody for him to fight, but no.
What about Tyron Woodley? What about Woodley versus Jalen Love first?
No. Woodley is almost the same exact size as Jake Paul.
Love needs to get hurt. Love needs to get his ass whooped quick.
Who cares? The more that guy gets a fight, then he gets more shine. He's completely irrelevant till you brought him up. Nobody cares about that guy.
That's true. I mean, I'm a friggin' cartoon podcast guy, and I've got 4 times the followers that he does. So I agree. All right.
Well, don't give him any more shine. Let's keep it moving. All right. So really quick, this is the last point. Rachel Ostovich to bare knuckle fighting championship. The heavy rumor is that she's getting lined up with a fight against Paige Van Zandt. Do you love it or hate it? What are your thoughts, Fight Geek? I mean, I don't love it or hate it. I mean, I know what it is. In my real life, I work in marketing, so it's a clear cash grab. You can put,
I mean, everyone's going to watch it. People hate it.
Well, I mean, we're all going to watch it, but the fact that Rachel Ostovich is a UFC reject who's never beat anyone with a Wikipedia page and has never in the history of her fight career stopped somebody via hands is a big signing for a bare-knuckle fighting organization. It makes absolutely no sense, but, if you can put Paige Van Zandt in there and put them both on a poster and Paige gets a big victory, I mean, at this point, Rachel Ostovich is sold out to be a punching bag, unfortunately. So.
All right. Well, my really unpopular.
Am I being too much of a downer about it?
I mean, a little bit, just in this sense. I think.
But
that,
I just mean from a competitive standpoint.
Okay. No.
It.
I appreciate that. So here's my theory here. You know, for all the shit that people talk about Rachel, she's got a lot of power. I think
she a real person like Britain Hart?
Do I think she can hurt Paige? Yeah. Does she have potential to beat Paige? Yeah. Will she beat Paige? Probably not. But can she?
Of course, it's a fight. But Paige, I don't know what you were watching last time, but that fight versus Paige versus Britain Hart, it wasn't that terrible. Paige showed pretty good technique.
Right.
Paige
she also beat Britain Hart. Do you know who Britain Hart is? We didn't know who Britain Hart was until she beat Paige. She's a nobody.
Didn't. I had watched her previously. I knew who she was. She was in Bellator prior to that.
All right. Whatever you say.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I have never seen Rachel Ostovich show any level of acumen in any of her fights. They've all been pretty.
Oh, that's a little. That's more than a little harsh. That's more than a little harsh. What did she get in the tough season? Didn't she go fairly? Or
I know, but the girls she beat aren't even.
I don't remember how far she went.
I looked over her record and just nothing rang a bell other than she's 1-3 in the UFC. She's been stopped by strikes 3 times and never stopped anyone via strikes yet. She's a big signing for Bare Knuckle FC.
I mean, she's one of the most beautiful fighters I've ever seen.
That has nothing to do with bare knuckle boxing, though. I
just feel like you're not giving her looks enough respect.
I'm the fight geek, not the looks geek.
Well, I need to change host then. All right. Enough. I'm kidding. Honestly, no, joking aside, everyone, I think Rachel's very tough. I think she can fight. I think she can punch. Is she known for striking? Of course not. Rachel's tough. She'll give Paige a competitive fight.
She is tough.
I'm being dead serious. She'll give a fight. She'll give a competitive fight.
I don't think it'll be competitive, but I 100% understand why they did it. I just hope it's not like the main event of a pay-per-view card, honestly.
We'll see. I respectfully disagree, and I do think Rachel will make it close.
I guess we'll see. All right.
All right, everyone.
Take care.
We're going to take a really quick break, then we'll be back with listener questions and more. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude letting you know that this episode of the Split Decision Podcast is brought to you by TotalAggressionClothing.com. Visit www.TotalAggressionClothing.com and use the promo code 46210 to receive a special Split Podcast discount on all Total Aggression hats, shirts, hoodies, and more. Again, that's www.TotalAggressionClothing.com with promo code 46210. Hey guys, it's Phil the MMA Dude back with the Split Decision Podcast, episode number 99, here with my always brilliant co-host, the Fight Geek, and it is now time for my favorite section of all, and that is Listen Up!
Alright.
I finally got applause, unlike last time when I was fucking booed. Whatever.
Well,
sorry.
Stay up to the level, Phil.
Alright. Yeah, you got a question, or is it all me?
Yeah, I got one queued up right here. It's from Big Nog's Back Divot.
What up, Big Nog Back Divot?
He says, it's hard to criticize anything Usman did on Saturday, but I'll try. After the big KO, when he jumped the cage to celebrate, I thought he was going to go straight over to Colby and get in his face. Do you think that was a missed promotional opportunity? I'll let you go first.
Absolutely not. Getting in Colby's face would have been giving him way too much respect. You know, that reminds me of UFC 189. After McGregor beat Mendez, he ran and he got in Jose Aldo's face, but that was appropriate because McGregor was the challenger. I think
exactly.
Had Usman done that with Colby, that'd almost be, that'd be showing almost submissiveness to Colby.
It would just be like Usman's thirsty for that matchup.
Right,
when Usman's the sitting champion.
Crazy
He's not thirsty for anything. He's waiting.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, and again, I mean, I'm a Colby fan, but man, that dude, every time they put a camera in front of him, he gets all jumbled and nervous and starts saying his lines all spastic. It's like, settle down, bro. You know, I actually think what he's trying to say is a tad clever, but he just delivers it so horribly, man. I don't understand what's wrong with that dude.
He's just really, look.
For someone who tries
playing
that
a
hard,
character.
he still can't deliver his lines. He's always stuttering and misspeaking.
It's because he's not being himself. He's playing
well, that's 100%. Like, we've heard him say the Street Judas and the Journeyman lines literally 100 times in the last 2 years, and he still butchers them? Like, what? I don't understand what's wrong with that dude. Okay, anyways.
All right, moving on. I've got a question from one of the Split Podcast OGs. Always brings the fire with his questions. That's Jalen Ware. That's at Strive 2B_GR8. He says, if Reyes loses this Saturday night, could he bounce back or be one of the biggest talent busts in UFC history? He went from arguably edging out the GOAT in Jones to totally out of the title picture. #AskSplitPod.
Yeah, I don't really see Reyes like that. He doesn't even have a formal background in any martial arts, so I never saw him as like that talented. Clearly, he's physically talented.
I mean, many people think he beat John Jones in their fight.
Well, that's fine what many people think, but when you're thinking of the most talented guys who have never reached their potential, I think there's guys that are much better than him. I mean, a guy like Brandon Vera, traditional skill set, were much more diverse. Things like that. So
okay, all right. I'll push back a little bit. I'm going to agree with Jalen a little bit more here. I think that it absolutely would make Dominic Reyes one of the biggest flops in UFC history, and I say that again.
What, he loses this weekend, or what do you mean?
Yeah,
he's still young. He's in his 20s.
If he loses this 31. Weekend, it's a big flop, and this is why. Fight Geek.
A big flop. Nobody knew who the guy was 3 years ago.
He beat John Jones. Everyone knows it deep down. He beat him. Okay? He beat him. He should have been the champ, but he wasn't. And now he's going to be on a 3-fight losing streak if he loses.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, man.
No, I totally get shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's why I'm saying he is the shoulda, coulda, woulda king.
No, I don't think so, because a guy like Brandon Vera, who was more traditionally trained, a bigger prospect with more hype, proclaimed as a future two-division champion, completely checked every single box and never reached those heights, is certainly more of an underperformer than a guy like Reyes, who was a late convert to MMA after he was like a C-list football player. He's basically Brendan Schaub accomplishment-wise as a prospect.
Okay, I think that's fair. Okay, moving on.
Of course it is. Coming from me.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, my God. Okay, moving on. Got a question from, actually, there's two, but I'll ask them one at a time. This is at 2Comfy69. First, he says, would you rather get eye poked like Bilal or leg snapped like Weidman?
This is the easiest question in the history of the show.
Obviously, rather get eye poked like Bilal, right?
I'll give one of my eyeballs away before I'll snack my leg like that.
Whoa, relax. You wouldn't chill.
Go ask Bisping if he'd rather snap his leg in half or deal with his eye issue.
Yeah, no. Well, are you sure about that? I mean,
I'd like to hear his answer. I would be really interested because I don't think there's things
Bisping has trouble.
Bisping
has trouble with his seeing eye right now.
Well, I'm sure Anderson Silva has trouble with arthritis, considering he has that issue with his leg.
Okay, no, but I do agree. I'd rather take the eye poke than that leg thing. Okay, so the second question from 2Comfy. This is at 2Comfy69. He says, should the UFC strip Aljo and make Corey versus Jan for the real belt? #AskSplitPod.
No.
I agree.
Yeah, you don't strip Aljo yet, even though he has a wonky title reign thus far. It hasn't even been
kind of weird and unlikable, but whatever.
Yeah. No, he's the champion right now. He won the way he won.
Yeah, no, he won. And by the way, when you say won the way he won, just to clarify, and I think you meant this, he won fair and square, whether we like it or not.
No, he won the fight.
He won the fight. He won.
You may not like the way he won, and I may not like the way he's acting or the way he's acted or whatever. But yeah, he used whatever that situation was to his advantage to walk out of that cage with the belt around his waist. So yes, he is the champion.
Yep. Okay, do you want to go next or me?
Sure, I got one from MMA by Milliken. He says,
MMA by Milliken, what up? Love that guy.
He says, I understand cutting fighters who turn down too many fights or who are inactive, but why are fighters like Felice Herring still ranked? What should the standards be for kicking fighters off the rankings? Hashtag AskSplitPod. Great question here. What do you think the standard should be for staying in the rankings? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. Just from it should be a universal rule from weight class to weight class, regardless of sex or division.
Like you must have one fight every calendar year. I think that
absolutely
makes sense.
One fight per calendar year.
One fight per calendar year completed.
And if you lose to an unranked fighter, there's a possibility that you'll lose your top 15 ranking.
And then the other question is, why is someone like Felice Herring still ranked? And my answer would be,
I mean,
because whoever's in charge of the UFC rankings does not do a very thorough job.
Okay, so that's a less controversial theory than mine. Mine is that the German media, which is into poo porn, for better words, are into her because she pooped in the octagon, and that's keeping her up there.
Phil, please don't bring this to our show.
I'm so sorry, Mom. Mother, I'm so sorry. Okay. I'm very sorry, Mom. On a serious note, my mom listens. This is embarrassing.
Well,
I'm so sorry.
All right. Next question. Go ahead. You got one?
Yes. This question is from Zan Bando. He says, "Hey fellas, 2 questions this week. 1, any opinion on Dana White going on Fox News to toot his own horn about 261 and coming back with a full crowd? And 2, does Khamzat Chimaev versus Nick Diaz actually happen? Hashtag AskSplitPod." So, yeah.
What are my opinions on Dana going to Fox News to toot his own horn? That's classic Dana.
Yep.
Hashtag classic Dana. I mean,
yeah, agreed.
What else is it? I mean, who has ever patted themselves on the back publicly more than Dana White? I think the guy has, he's given himself as much credit as humanly possible over the last 25 years for the UFC. So while a lot of it is deserved, no, Dana is doing Dana. Going to say live, do whatever he wants. He's living his best life, and what we think or want really is irrelevant.
I agree. My only 2 cents, really quick, my only quick 2 cents is that Dana does seem to love to kind of inject his politics into the sport. The only reason it annoys me is because I think it encourages then the other side to inject their opinion, which leads into a death spiral of political discussion, which no one, at least me, is not interested in. So I
100%.
I kind of wish it was left alone.
On the other side, the other side of the coin, Dana White is his authentic self, and we're all these journalists and people and are trying to get at Dana, and they want to interview Dana, and they want to know about Dana. And Dana, if you go to the NFL and you listen to some of these people talk, they don't give you anything interesting for years.
Yep.
Dana White is a real guy who sits down and gives you his real answers, and you may not like him, but you can appreciate that, he's not giving you a ton of canned answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And really quick, actually, on that note, I totally agree. He got really mad at the one of the, I don't remember the name, it was one of the major Las Vegas newspapers for essentially bashing him for doing 261. They thought it was premature, and he's saying, and by the way, I thought his anger was interesting. He was saying, look, this is a hometown newspaper. We're bringing business into the U.S. during this difficult time. And on one side, he had a good point. On the other, I think they had a good point on the health thing. So all I'm getting at here is,
imagine that life is somewhere in the gray and it's not always black and white.
But that's exactly my point, Fight Geek. I was surprised that Dana was surprised at the criticism. He should have known at the very least he was making a controversial choice and that some people were going to criticize it. No?
Yeah, but I mean, he also may have had a long-standing relationship with them in good standing and wouldn't suspect them to do something like that. I think his biggest issue was the fact that they released it, simultaneously, kind of trying to steal shine, yada, yada. So there was multiple layers there, and I'm sure there's a lot of backstory. Who knows, because it's a local paper.
Yeah, Dana went so far, and it's worth noting, Dana went so far as to make sure that he was like, I just want to make sure that I let it be known that I'm not attacking the journalist who wrote the article. He went that far. He said, "I
Yeah, he
know
was
that
talking about the
editors,
editors and
yeah,
headlines and
I
stuff.
know that editors bully them, and I know this guy, and he's a good guy." And
So yeah, to be clear, Dana's going to do and say what Dana wants, and I don't at this point have a big problem with people in this country saying and doing what they want with their platform. I mean, that is what this country's about. So I mean, you may not like it. There's a lot of platforms in this world that I don't like. You know, it's just
no,
it's
I
the
completely agree with
nature
you.
of the world at this point.
Lord knows, we are all big fans, and especially, we're both American of free speech. The question is, this is my last part on Fight Geek, is it good business? Is it a good business decision to say whatever you want as the leader of the UFC?
I mean, that's
Because
his brand.
it can alienate,
He's brash, and he's going to do what he wants, and he's going to be successful, and he's going to be driven, and that's his brand. I mean, if Dana starts changing who he is now, who's that going to help?
Yeah, I agree with you. I honestly
So let's
agree.
get to the second question real quick. Does Shamaya versus Nick Diaz actually happen? I really have a hard time seeing this fight happen. I don't see why
But
it would happen.
Nick's not gonna say no. I mean, is he?
Well, it's not that Nick. I don't know. Nick and Nate are pretty strong-willed. They're not guys that get pushed over. It's basically the reason they have extended layoffs is because they do it their way. I don't think Nick is
I'm
going
concerned.
to.
I'm concerned that Nick's going to feel the disrespect and feel almost more motivated.
The only way
it.
Nick takes this fight is if Nick feels comfortable taking the fight. So it depends on what Nick sees on film. It depends on how Nick feels physically. What I do know is that DC was singing Nick Diaz's praises as far as what kind of shape and how strong he was whenever they were kind of meeting up in the lobby or whatever. I don't know if you heard him say that, but
yeah.
It's real, kind of hipster to say that, a mid-30s Nick Diaz has no chance against a guy, who's beating up, no guys who are clearly lesser than a prime Nick Diaz. But I don't know. I don't know what to make of that fight. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't think a guy like Chimaev deserves to fight a legend like Nick Diaz. I don't think he's earned it based off his resume.
I think the fight is Nick Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal at 185 middleweight bout.
No, I don't think. Nick is a 170 pounder.
Nick fought Anderson Silva 185.
That's because at the time Anderson Silva was an absolute legend who was considered the greatest fighter of all time, and that was one of the last fights left for Nick to take.
I'm just trying to improve Nick's
Nick. I don't believe Nick's going to fight at 185. If you've seen the pictures of him, he looks like Nick Diaz. He looks like he's in his fighting shape.
He's always been a little bit bigger in general than Nate. I don't necessarily mean taller.
No, he is bigger than Nate for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, he is definitely bigger, a little more dense.
That's what I mean. So why can't he be a middleweight?
He's not a 185er at all. Nate is a 155er. Nick is a 170 pounder. Nate is only at 170 because he's been fighting at 155 for 10 years, and there's no more names for him to fight. I'm sure he'd love to fight Poirier or McGregor, but he's not getting that fight anymore.
Okay, I think that's fair. All right.
Yeah, so anyways, I don't know where we went there, but I don't see it happening. The one fight I love is Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. I think it'd be unbelievable striking war. I think it could be a lot like Daly Diaz at its best. So that's what I would, wish for. Okay. And if I couldn't get that, Kevin Holland versus Nick Diaz sounds like immense fun.
Ooh.
And you could make that at 185 or 170. Nick's not a wrestler, so you're not going to have to worry about putting Holland in a bad spot. You have two.
He can wrestle if he needs to, though. That's the problem.
Well, yeah. Well, he also has. People forget Nick Diaz is a dangerous jiu-jitsu fighter who will break your limbs. He'll snap your arm.
That's what I'm saying.
If he snaps people's arms in competition,
he'll take it. If he needs to, he'll take it to the ground.
So for real, but I think the striking at range would be interesting because Holland's creative, but Nick is just got the. I know Nick's cardio is still there. I mean, he's still swimming and doing triathlons and riding his mountain bike. Nick's going to have the cardio in the boxing. That's not going to go. So the only real question with Nick is, because he's going to have boxing, cardio, and jiu-jitsu, is what that chin and brain is like. Can he take shots anymore like he used to? Because his style is predicated on taking a lot of shots and wearing you down. You don't want to put him in there with a monster power puncher on his first fight back to test out if his mid-30s, he can still eat 100 shots to beat a guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Anyways, that was long-winded.
Next question. Next question comes from Eric B. Is it Bouchard?
You do this every week. It's Buchert.
Wow, I screwed up every week, Eric. Eric's
At
gonna
least-
stop. Eric's
at
gonna
least
stop
you're
calling in.
consistent.
Eric, I'm so sorry. Like Eric.
Don't
probably
worry,
hates-
Eric's from my page. He's
Eric
not gonna
probably
leave the
hates
show.
me right now. Eric, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, Eric's mad at me probably. I understand if you are, Eric. Anyways, he says he's got 3 questions, but they're all great. 1. Dana claims John Jones asked for $30 million to fight Ngannou, and he says it's too much. Do you think it's too much? 2. What do you think about Blachowicz moving up a weight class to fight Ngannou? 3. Any big plans for the 100th episode? #AskSplitPod. Fight Geek.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let's go. Dana claims Jones asked for $30 million. Considering Jones
We know what
tweeted
happened
that he-
there, it seems, with the Kawas.
Considering John fired his management and tweeted that he didn't say that, I don't think he asked for that personally. But yes, it's probably a touch too much. We touched on this a couple weeks ago.
It sounds like
I
the
think-
Kawa brothers literally went
I
to the
think
UFC
John
with
should
that
get
number.
10 to 15 million easy to fight Ngannou and put his neck and his legacy on the line. So I
10
think
million
15
up
million.
front plus pay-per-views more than fair.
That sounds good. What do you think about Blachowicz moving up a weight class to fight Ngannou? I don't like that.
Unnecessary. Don't do it.
Jan
Build
is
your resume.
already a slow 205er. He would be super slow at heavyweight and probably get knocked out very quickly.
People, see. Okay, really quick. You're still disrespecting Jan. He beat Israel Adesanya. Like, come on. Let's not say he's a bum.
Francis Ngannou.
No, Ngannou would obviously kill him.
Ngannou knocks Jan Blachowicz with 30 pounds on him out in 60 seconds. I'm sorry. I love Jan Blachowicz, but he's not built to take that kind of damage from a guy who's weighing in at 260, whatever.
Fight Geek, I got news for you. John Jones ain't lasting 60 seconds against
that
Ngannou.
is what we're about to find out. No disrespect. I like Jan. I think he's very technical. I think he's a tank. He's strong. He has power. But his strength is not speed, and he would be much slower at heavyweight, where Ngannou is a pretty fast twitch athlete for the monster that he is. I think that's a horrible matchup.
I do agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about Blachowicz, Stipe is like similar physically to him as a heavyweight. And Stipe is actually more athletic.
Okay, let's
Stipe
not.
has
Wow,
a
you're
hard
really
time getting
dissing.
away.
You're dissing Jan a little.
I'm not dissing him. I'm just saying.
Jan has improved astronomically.
So has Francis Ngannou.
Well, that's for damn sure. Hey,
Yeah.
don't put words in my mouth. I ain't saying Jan beats
Yeah,
Francis
you think
Ngannou.
Jan's going to knock out Francis at heavyweight? Wow.
Not a chance in hell. All right.
All right. Any big plans for 100th episode? We're working on it. We're trying to do something, but, the day job is keeping us real busy. We've only got so many hours in the week allocated, but we'll see what we can do.
Stay tuned. I've been thinking about this as well, everyone. This is not, this is a question I've been thinking about. Stay tuned.
All right. Where are we at on the question?
It'll likely be next, almost certainly, it will be next week. Fikey, can we give that confirmation that it will be next week?
It will be next week.
It will be next week, so we should be back to,
Tell your friends.
that 3.5 on average, 3.5 to 4 episodes per month. We should be back to that. Okay, who else we got? Who have we not answered yet?
Have you answered Eduardo at Landa Crew?
Oh, I think we have not. Eduardo Landa Crew, what up? OG, Split Podcast, OG, Original Gangster.
He says, with Nick Diaz's pending return, what role do you see him playing in the UFC? A gatekeeper, title contender, or champion? #AskSplitPod.
Can you imagine how incredible it would be if Nick Diaz won a belt?
Well, yeah, I mean, clearly that is the stuff that legends are made of.
It's just worth saying out loud because it'd be so crazy to me.
But the things that the things that he was good at and made problematic for Nick are the same things that Usman is good at and would make problematic for Nick, and Nick's older. So, and Nick, the thing about Nick is he's not a one-shot knockout guy. He has a style, and he has to win with his style.
He's a volume striker.
He's a volume boxer who has unbelievable jiu-jitsu, but definitely wants to let you empty his tank, empty your tank, and then turn it on late. Much like his brother, but I mean, there's always been this debate since Nate has become more popular and beat Conor, who was the better fighter. I think Nick Diaz is clearly the better fighter than Nate Diaz, 100%. I think he's got the better boxing, jiu-jitsu, and chin.
Yup. Yup. Very hard to.
So yeah, I think. What do I see him playing? I see him being. I don't think he's going to be a champion or a title contender. I think he's going to be, in that celebrity fighter stage. I just, it's hard to say. It's been 6 years. The dude's been drinking and partying. He's clearly back in shape. But if you've listened to his interviews, and I'm a huge Nick Diaz fan. His interview with Ariel a couple years ago, it was a little rough to get through. So to know exactly how sharp he'll be in the ring is a big unknown. But his skill set presents a lot of problems for people if he's any semblance of himself. So
no, absolutely.
I would say, I mean, he could contend with guys like Wonder Boy. I would give him a chance versus Colby for the simple fact that he has the cardio to match Colby. Colby's not a big puncher, so
he's not beating Colby.
I mean, well, it depends on what version we get. Stylistically, I'm going off of. I'm going off styles. He does not have the style to beat some people. It's just unfortunate he doesn't. But he does have the style to still be competitive with others, especially, like if you put him in there with Robbie Lawler coming off this long layoff, I think he'd beat Robbie Lawler pretty easily because Robbie Lawler's, has a lot of, wear and tear on him.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Anyways,
do you have the Juice Jackson from Friendly Sparring Podcast asked a voice question? Do you have that one by chance?
Cutting me off, man. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry. Hey. The fans want to get to a point. They only got so much time. Our listeners, excuse me, not fans, listeners, always listeners. Listeners only have so much time here.
All right. Well, here's the question. Here we go. As soon as my internet starts working.
Sounds good.
Pulling it up.
You got like a 1995 AOL connection?
I don't know what's going on here.
Okay. Fight Geek struggling, everyone. Let's enjoy this moment of his anxiety.
Here we go.
This is Juice, co-host of the Friendly Sparring Podcast. And I got a question for you. Is it time for Chris Weidman to retire? Now, I know there's been a lot of talk of, comparing what happened to him against Uriah Hall, unfortunately what happened, to what he was on the other side of against Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva threw a kick, Chris checked it, broke his leg. Okay, we got it. Now Chris throws the kick, Uriah checks it, Chris breaks his leg. Okay, breaks his leg, breaks his leg. Anderson came back. He took however long he took, a couple of years. I think it was a year and a half or so. Probably fought Nick Diaz. Obviously tested positive. So he just, he wasn't the same after that. So given what Chris has accomplished and what he has done already in the sport, what is there for him to come back to? He hasn't been fighting the same already. Who knows what would have happened in that fight had he, not broken his leg. But at this point, for me, I don't want to see him fight anymore. What are your thoughts?
Love it.
Great question,
Love
man.
it.
You got any thoughts, Phil?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm probably not in the minority on this. I'm a big Chris Weidman fan. I've always liked Chris. I connected with him, I've been a Chris Weidman fan ever since, a few fights before his first fight with Anderson. I just like the guy.
Mark Munoz fight got me hooked, elbow.
I love his walkout with, the don't back down, Tom Petty.
All-time great walkout, for
Absolutely. Sure. I just love the guy. I remember
his dad, the All-American.
Yep.
Chris Weidman's a Hall of Famer, but
I remember being two quick memories that aren't Anderson Silva related. One, I remember being heartbroken watching Luke Rockhold beat him at, I think, 194? McGregor Aldo? Was that when he lost his title to Rockhold? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I remember watching Weidman Rockhold live and being heartbroken. And then, the second fight that broke my heart a little bit was the definitely the Gegard Mousasi fight. I know he won it. I'm aware he won, but he didn't win it properly, and it just felt like the beginning of the end a bit. I love Chris Weidman, but just I would like to see him retire. Frankly, I think it's in the best interest of his long-term resume and reputation.
Yeah, I hate to call for anyone's retirement also, but what is there to come back to? Obviously someone like Chris Weidman, who's as accomplished and is driven, is going to be driven to come back. But like you said, he's off the top of my head, I believe he's 2-6 in his last 8.
Sounds right. Sounds about right.
So and I think a handful of them have been TKO stoppages after he's been winning the fight, so he's taken quite a bit of damage. The way this happened, I mean, unfortunately, it's just wild because, Chris Weidman, that name will always ring a bell to me because when I was watching this sport and, Anderson Silva was the absolute greatest fighter of all time. It was undisputed while he was fighting when he was, beating guys like Dan Henderson and knocking out Forrest Griffin. And for the Sarah Longo team to come on the scene and be like, Chris Weidman's different, and you hear the hype in this, but for Chris Weidman to really come in and knock out and then break Silva's leg and to be undefeated, I thought Chris Weidman was. I thought he was that dude, and he was for that a while. But after what he's been through in the later stages of his career, there's absolutely no reason for him to continue to put his body through this. I mean, he's a guy who would make a great commentator, coach. I mean, I think coaching is going to be an easy transition for him, especially being with around the guys he's around. So, definitely time. You don't want to see a guy like that who's got a family and an accomplished career just take damage like that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so I'm about to hand it off to you, but before I do, I wanted to make a quick little comment. Are we done? Is that all the questions?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so really quick before I hand it off to Fight Geek, folks, if you are listening to this, if you have an iPhone, if you enjoyed the episode, if you want us to keep continuing the show, please hit that quick podcast app sign, type in the Split Decision Podcast 4 words, and give us a quick 5-star review. Hit us with a quick subscribe. It makes a huge difference. If you want us to continue, we want to know. So please do hit that subscribe and give us a 5-star review. It makes all the difference in the world. And with that, I will hand it off to Fight Geek. Take us away, baby.
All right, guys. As usual, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, and more. I'm at the Fight Geek MMA. He's at Phil the MMA Dude. We are at Split_Podcast. It's 4 words. The Split Decision Podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.